Okay, back again. I'm going to try and piece a few shorter videos together this time around. I've got a new phone. I don't know how well I'm going to do, but anyway. So I'm still waiting on the new steel. I've got a sheet coming. Apparently they had some sort of drama with it. So I've got a limited amount of steel left. Essentially that's all I have. I've got two little bits. So what I'm going to do this afternoon is instead of just sitting on the couch, I'll try and sort out rebuilding this section here, and I just thought I'd show you what I'm going to do. So what I've done is originally I sort of cleaned this top section off and cut a straight line, and realised quite quickly when I got back around behind it that it was very, very thin steel. You can basically just bend it with your fingers. So I've just made a mark with a piece of tape, just a straight line, and I'm just going to cut it now. I'll probably end up curling it around and rebuilding this as well. It's new steel all the way up to here, so I could probably just cut along there and rebuild that whole chamfer. And this is what I did on the other one. I rebuilt all of in here, but I also put a washer at the back. I'm hoping that the clearance for the wiper allows me to have something thicker behind there. This will all be fully welded as well, so anyway I can probably just grind that down a little bit in the long run, but that's what I'll be doing on this side as well. And so yeah, what I'll do now is I'll just cut this away and then just replicate this side here, which by the way I replicated. So this side wasn't cut originally, and then I used that measurement to make this side. So now I use this measurement to make this side. And I suppose I'll just bring you back when I get further along. Alright. What I've done now is cut that piece away, and then I followed the flange, the folded edge, with a ruler, and I've run it parallel to that underneath it, and I brought it all the way to here where this will meet it. So at that junction point in the dead center of the nose, I've put the ruler, and then I've overlaid a piece of masking tape, and with a dirty finger I've rubbed along the front, and what that'll give me is a template for the void that I have. It's just a lot quicker than making a paper template. So now I've got that. I'll take this off, and then that will be laid onto steel, and I can cut it to measure to match the piece of steel that I've got. And then obviously I've got this extra here for this section that's folded up. So that's where I'm at. I'll bring you back. Alright, so that's trimmed down now. That basically just fits in there, just like that. And then what I'll do now is I have a couple of smaller pieces of steel, and I'll just find where this sort of will allow me to go. So I can go to probably there, and that gets rid of that much, and then I've got this much more to go. So let's have a look. Yeah, I've got plenty of space. Right, so I'll just work with that. So I'll just cut this now roughly here, and lay that on there, and then just trim it up, and that piece is ready to go onto there. It's a quick and easy method for me to do it. I don't buy repair panels because I simply couldn't afford to do this if I bought repair panels. I understand the people that sell them need to make money, and all the power to them, but for me, I just simply couldn't do this hobby if I had to buy the panels. So unfortunately for them, they won't get much business out of me. Every now and again I'll be forced to you know, buy parts, and that's great for them, but just for me, I can't afford it, so this is what I do. So anyway, so that's the part with the tape on it, and so all I have to do now is just trim along this edge exactly on there, on that tape, because that tape was exactly an imprint of that, and then that part is ready to go. So I'll have this one, and then it's just that one other one to go, which is this piece of tape, and I'll just continue. Okay, so in amongst the mess here, you probably see that I've got a little piece of steel clamped up to this, and that is going to be the inside of the window ledge. And what I've done is the tape's on the metal, and I've cut it out to size, and then I need to break this edge here. So another little quick way that I do it sometimes is I just clamp it up to this, and then just basically roll the hammer up and bring that up, and I can just adjust it with a pair of pliers later. You can see that it just comes up. Now in here, there's a bit of the interface between where the wiper, I'm going to call it a bushing, I'm not sure what it is, it's just basically a hole, and then it comes up here. So I'm going to bash this up and probably have to end up cutting this. Actually, I might just, no I won't, I'll tip this up and see how I look. So anyway, take that off. Got the piece now. There it is. Now I've got the other piece down here. So you've got two pieces. And what happens is this one gets presented up to here. Now you can see the beautiful part about using that masking tape. I get an exact fit straight up. I don't have to use a grinder for half an hour. And I've left this little part on here because I know this is fairly weak here. So what I might do is leave it on there when I go to weld it. Then if I start to blow through, I can just tap it up and fill that hole. I'll probably just cut it like, you know, 1/2 centimetre. But there that is. And I'll leave this until I work on this section here, I think. I won't cut it just yet. So there we are. There's that. I'll get a tack in it and I'll bring you back. Alright, so I've welded these two parts in. I welded them from the back. I've got a little blowout there. I'll fix that up. Bit more rust down here than what I anticipated. So I'm just going to have to be very careful, and I've cleaned this piece very well, and what I'll do is I'll hit the weld on this side and then just draw it that way as quick as I can and just overlap them as much as I can and build it up. I've just cleaned it off with a wire wheel as best I could. You can see where the rust starts, is just here, so hopefully I can catch it. If not, I'll cut all this out and make another part. But that's the back side of the other part that I made, and I've just welded it all the way around, and it's got to be finish welded from the back side because I got all of this from the front when it was up on the vehicle. And right now I'm just sort of having a cup of tea and filling up my man fuel gauge. It says full, but I'm definitely not on full. And this looks pretty bad up here, so I think I'll hack this away, and rather than go to just here, if you can see there's a weld line there, I'll probably come all the way out to here. That way I'm welding to fresh metal and not sort of half and half, and complete that. It's definitely going to look great when it's done. A lot of work involved in this part. I've basically gone all the way around it now. I haven't done this section or this section here, and it looks really daunting too. Like, I was just thinking about it as I was making my cup of tea, you know, some part like this would just, every time I looked at this I thought, oh, that's going to be a hard bit to make, and you put it off and you put it off and you put it off, and things become too difficult in your mind as opposed to just doing it. So instead of just doing something, a lot of the time you can overthink it and never get anything done. So that's why I do what I do here, because I can be a very sedentary person. So try and get out here and do this stuff. These welds aren't the best, but they're never going to be seen again. I dare say that this vehicle will probably never be pulled apart again. It'll go for, I don't know, however many years and be parked up again, and whatever was original will rust away. But anyway, I'll persevere with this now, and I'll bring you back. I forgot to mention a little thing I've sort of taught myself, and it's probably totally wrong. Someone will say, no, you can't do that, but I'm going to say it anyway. When I've got really, really badly rusty metal like this, and I'm trying to weld to good metal, and I just know that I'm going to blow through. I mean, anyone who's tried this will know that you just, as soon as you touch the wire to it, it just blows it through, and you end up with all these holes. What I do, and it seems to work for me now, how do I explain it? So say for instance, got a piece of metal here, and then I've got a really rusty piece here, and I'm trying to weld them together. Like, I don't mean rusty as in still covered in rust, but quite thin and very compromised, and a bit of rust in there. What I do is, rather than trying to weld this to this interface here, I come back from the edge and I lay some tacks down real high on the metal, so not very hot, real high, and they sit proud of the surface. and what they do is they draw all the rust and impurities out of the steel, but I'm not near the edge, so I run a really thick, well, not really thick, but a line of weld back from the edge like that, clean it with a wire wheel, and that draws all the crap out of the steel. And then I go between the thick piece, because it's now essentially a heat sink, just like you have in a computer. So it'll draw the heat away from that edge when you go to weld now, and you've also got a thickness of steel to weld to. So then what I do is I come back in between and I start here and draw out to there, but it only bursts. So I just go and I just bring that all the way down, and I don't blow through the steel. I may get one or two, but in past experience I tried to weld thin metal and it just becomes a volcano and it ends up coming way out. That's exaggerated, but that's what I did here just now. So I know it looks rough because it's flux core, and I've just laid a heap of weld in there, and that's given it some thickness, and I'll clean that up and whatever. But I just thought I'd mention that. I'm not sure if it's what people do, but it seems to work for me. I can get away with welding to very thin metal with the very cheap welders that I have. I'd hate to think how you would do that with a TIG welder, being as dirty as that is. I just don't think it would be possible. From what I can see online, the people that weld with TIG say that it's got to be super clean, but for what I'm doing here, and it's all rusty and got a lot of junk in it, salt, stuff like that, the flux core draws all of the crap out, and then you clean it, and then you can actually go through and get it. I did that on one of the doors I had once. It was so thin that you could pretty much poke holes in it, and I just, instead of, see that hole there, instead of trying to weld the hole, I welded around it and then came in from that edge from that point on, because I'd tried it previously and tried to hit the weld on the hole, but it was so thin that it just kept blowing out. So that's what I do now, and you can see that that worked. And that metal, I don't know how thin that was, but it was very thin. Anyway, okay, so this is what I'm up to now. I just took the time to sort of wire wheel the front of it. It hasn't been ground down or anything yet, so it looks rough, but you can see that the weld is sound. I mean, it's not perfect, and there's probably a couple of spots I'll have to re-tack, you know, a few bubbles, but you sort of expect that. All in here's got to be cleaned up, but it is fresh steel, and it is strong again, and it has the profile that it needs, so that's all that matters. And this is all got to be trimmed down and then ground down here. It should look pretty good. It'll have the correct profile. I mean, you pretty much only see the front from there forward, so as long as I do that right, I should be okay. And all in here, I'll just have to use a sander as well, drill this back out, file it all level, and it should look pretty good. Going around the other side, actually what I'll do, So the other side's not ground down yet, and that's where I double welded. It looks rough, but it did what it was supposed to do, and I'll rust treat all of that area there that's brown still, and yeah, continue on. But happy days. It's always good to get something completed, and yeah, so this peak will be hidden away. There's another edge that goes over it. It's this part here. So this actually sits over like that and tidies it all up. So you're really only looking at that front leading edge that needs to be finely tuned up, but happy with that. See you on the next one.